Uh-oh. Just gonna fix that up there. Okay, hi. So, I will adjust this as well. So today, I've got a microphone, so hopefully you can hear me, and there should be no looping of any kind. Gonna pop out my chat here so I can chat with you fine people. So I'm actually about to conduct a little bit of an experiment. This is still not far out enough. So I'm about to conduct a little bit of an experiment with a wire cutter, hot wire cutter, that I don't know if it's working or not. It's just like, it almost feels like it shouldn't do anything. It's just this like weird tube with a wire coming out of it, and you put batteries in the tube, and the wire is here. It's hard to see. I'm not going to touch it in case it's actually hot, and then you use it to cut foam. But I'm not sure if mine is working, but if it is, that would be great. And then I would also like to see if it will cut this kind of foam. So, I don't know. The on-off switch also seems quite dubious. If only I knew how it worked. I used it once a really long time ago, and haven't tried since. So I'm gonna let that heat up, maybe, if it is heating up at all. But if that doesn't work, I'm going to be using, I've got some cutters. And by cutters, I mean saws. I don't know why I'm saying cutters, like that's a real word. I mean, I guess it's technically correct. This isn't my favorite kind of thing to use for this, so I'm gonna... Part of the problem is that this loopy handle makes it hard to cut because it gets in the way. I used to have one that was just like a cool handle that you screw long blades into, but I don't know where the handle is. I only know where the blades are. So you can see, as usual, I'm terribly prepared. I also have a bigger one with a bigger loop, but the blade is thinner. Just gotta check real quick in my box of wonders here. Nope, if it's anywhere, it's in my tool bag, and I'm not gonna look in there right now. Also got myself a nice little cart set up over here so that I can throw stuff on it out of the way. My keyboard's also there. Grab my chat window. Okay. And something tells me that this is out of focus, so... Hey, buddy! Yes, you are the first. Thanks for stopping by. I'm just focusing my camera. And how are you? Feel free to tell me. Now my chair is getting stuck on things. Off to a ripping good start here. Alright, let's see if this is hot. It doesn't seem to be, which is sort of upsetting. I think it just uses pure battery power to heat up. There's contact, so it should be making a current. Though I don't know why. I don't know, this thing is a mystery to me. I mean, I've had it for a little while, but... Hey, DJ, let me know if the sound is okay. I was having some trouble with it last time. So I guess I'm just going to start hacking into this thing. This can be a quite messy process, so I've left my paper on the table here. Looking for the edges of my foam board underneath this pile of noodly spray foam. I think I might have to tape this thing down because it keeps moving. And I think I have some tape. Or not. Oh, I do. It's on the floor. Hold on. Oh, it's really loud. Okay. It's surprisingly difficult to bump. Let me see. Okay, I bumped it down. This still looks pretty loud. Okay. Let me know how that is. I bumped it down quite a bit. And I agree, I don't want it to be too quiet either. But too loud can also suck. I don't want it to get distorted. I'm just gonna tape my plastic down here. This is just blue tape. It's okay. Yesterday on the stream I was having a problem with the audio looping endlessly, and I figured out it's because for some inexplicable reason, OBS, even if you don't tell it to, picks up the audio from the stream if I have it on, like if I have the web page on, which I always do, and even though it's muted and I have system sounds muted and all this other stuff muted, it just kept picking up the sound over and over again, and so it was just looping. Okay. Time to saw things. Why is this so bright? Guess it's not really much better, huh? Alright, going for it. Let's see how far I can get with this saw. Although, since you're the only one watching, maybe I should run over to my closet and try to find my other saw right now. I'm sure you wouldn't care. I'm actually going to do that. Don't hate me. Okay. That was worthwhile because I found both the handle and another cutting knife. Gonna try both of them and see which one works best. Gotta try this one first because I have the blade handy. Oh, that's quite nice. Go with that for now. Trying to find the edges of my foam board under here without cutting through them. Also, this loose. Oh, I did cut through foam board, didn't I? Yeah, cut the end right off of it. Well, shoot. Just a little bit, though. I try not to cover the edges when I do the foam, the spray foam, but since it is kind of gloppy and it, you know, expands, it's kind of... Hey, Nicholas! How you doing? I think you will find stream audio much improved today. Let me know how the volume is for you. Also, when I do things like cutting foam, let me know if it's like excruciatingly loud. Feedback is appreciated. But I think my stream gets a little better every time I do it. I also quite optimistically set up a tipping page and alerts just in case someone ever comes by who wants to help support my cosplay efforts. It's wishful thinking, but I figured I might as well put it in place. You never know. Could happen. This blade's got a bit more of a complicated shape than the other one. Also, this is going to make a mess, and I'm just going to have to be okay with that. I wanted to do this while I was at my parents' house, because my dad has a great workshop space. So it's easy to make messes in it and just clean it up, and even if it's not 100% cleaned up, it's not the end of the world because it's a workshop. But here I'm just at my dining table in my studio apartment where there's no room separation, obviously. Some quite complicated zigzagging on this one. Trying very carefully not to cut the main pattern off. So this is really the first main step to shaping the sword. Up till now there hasn't been a lot of shaping involved other than drawing the initial pattern. I guess that counts as shaping. Hello, new viewers. Hello. I don't know who's here, but I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. Feel free to say hey in chat. I like chat. Chat's good. And while I was testing my audio today, I discovered that I'm on a delay, but not too bad of a delay. It's around 30 seconds, so as long as I happen to look up and see your chat, I can front page hype. What does that mean? What does it mean? Moving on to the other side here. So once I cut the outline shape out, I'm gonna start. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I hope one day. But I had to get people to actually watch me first. So I think I average about 4 or 5 viewers a stream, and they're usually the same people. But I hope some people will find me and enjoy what I do. And if any of you people who are actually watching right now know other people who might be interested, please do tell them about it. Or, you know, retweet or send them to my Facebook page or what have you. Really helpful for getting people to find out about my stream. Especially now that it's not absolutely horrible like it was in the beginning. I mean, it's still not the most amazing stream out there, visually, but I think I've done a pretty good job of kicking it up a notch. Just gonna peel away some foam. If you can't tell, the stuff gets everywhere and it's really static clingy. In fact, when I finish this step, I may have to put the BRB screen on for just a minute or two to vacuum, of all things. I'm hoping too much of it doesn't cling to my laptop, which is sitting perilously close. But I've done this sort of work in my kitchen and other places and other apartments, including in a very tiny room where I used to live. It was basically like a dorm room, but it wasn't a dorm room, but it was that style of living. And I managed to carve foam and use resin and do many other probably ill-advised things in that tiny space. So if I could do it there, I can do it here. Just gotta take time to clean up. Alright, you can see the shape, outline shape now, looking more like the actual sword shape. Big one on the bottom. Just gotta finish up the bottom portion here. Then we'll start hacking into the facing. For these swords in particular, the expanding foam probably wasn't necessarily the most amazing and necessary choice because I didn't really need to build up that much thickness. I probably could have used more easily some insulation foam or even just many layers of craft foam. But I'm trying to use some things that I have on hand. And I had several cans of craft foam, so I would love to have another camera so that you can see down closer. I mean, I could point my face cam at it, but then I can't see the chat. I'm very high tech here. So, I don't know, it's a dilemma. Doesn't help that I've been too lazy to fill my humidifier, so it's a very staticky environment in here. Alright, last bit. I'm gonna get all the way down to the handle here. Cool. Got a sword-shaped sword, but it still looks like a big noodle pile. So the next step is to start chopping down the top and bottom into as close as an approximate shape as I can get it. This is also when I have to make decisions about what I want the sword to actually look like. And I have to keep in mind that there's going to be layers of foam and warbler on here that will make it thicker, so I'm going to try, and I also need to try to make it look like it works with the smaller sword that I've already fixed up. So, however, this foam is really thick, so I'm just going to start by really cutting it down a lot. One slice at a time. Kind of feels like slicing bread. Except bread, that's a huge pain in the ass. But if you've ever looked at photo tutorials of people who make props like this and wondered how it gets from big pile of spray foam to that next photo where miraculously it looks like a axe or a sword or a shield. You're watching it live in action. Cutting down all the bumps, all the thickness. Tightening my blade because it's getting put through its paces here. And this one I'm even going to make a little less thick. Trying to work on my diction, a little less thick. Than I would, at least for the top portion, because there's these sort of stripes in it. And I sort of see those as different levels of thickness, little channels. So I'm going to build those up with craft foam. So I need to give myself the thickness to do that. This is quite satisfying, actually, aside from the mess. I don't really like messes. Oh. Okay, I cut it right down to the PVC, trying to decide if that's good. Yeah, that's probably fine, actually. It's about that's literally the smallest thickness I can go, so... And anything thicker than that would look too thick by my eye. So I'm going to cut it right down to the PVC at the handle. It's easy to get going on this and cut away too much. Gotta do a little at a time. Time to stop, look, reassess. Gonna start cutting down the other side so I can get a better idea. Of the thing as a whole. There go the viewers I did have. I hope some come back. But I guess if you live on the West Coast, it's clocking out time. For anyone who had the stream on at work. Actually getting quite a shoulder workout from this. Mostly because I am totally not in shape. Taking time to check the profile. You mean thickness-wise symmetry or side to side? I mean, side to side is easy because you can just mirror the pattern. But yeah, for like the top and bottom thicknesses being symmetrical, you sort of have to eyeball it. You can use, if you really want to be precise about it, or you know that you're not good at eyeballing things, you can use a ruler. Maybe tape one down to the desk and just check it. Check it as you go. Cut little pieces, check, cut little pieces, check. Once you get one side looking the way you want. But other than that, yeah, it's just practice, patience, and a good eyeball. Believe me, I wish there were a more scientific way of going about it. I'm gonna go get the smaller sword for reference. Totally covered in foam. Now I'm gonna go spread it around my apartment like a foam fairy. You remember this guy from yesterday? Yeah. Yeah, definitely need to be careful about how you do this. If you would need to keep your dog out of the space until you have it completely cleaned up. Cats too. I'm sure cats would bat around these little like foam chunks. And chew on them. And I'm sure that would be just awful for them. Alright, so I'm just using this as a reference. I mean, this sword's bigger, so... But I just want to get a sense of how I shaped it, so I don't do it completely differently. If you put down drop cloths, and I'm using plastic because I just had it out, but if you put down fabric, drop cloths are better because they're less staticky, and really just cover every bit of your workspace with it, and keep a vacuum with you. You can get most of it up that way. But then having a decent vacuum is essential. I do not have a decent vacuum. I have a little glorified dustbuster. But hopefully it will get up most of it. Alright, I'm tapering the edges here. So that it curves down. I was lucky I was able to do the other one at my parents' house, but I ran out of spray foam, so I couldn't carve this one, and I didn't have time. I went a little vacation crazy while I was home, and I just did nothing way more than I thought I would want to. Last semester was kind of rough. This one's also shaping up to be no picnic. Lots of group projects. I think I only have one class with no group projects. And that's the only class with somebody in it who I would actually not mind doing a group project with. So if I cut the foam down a little too far in some spot, I can always fill it in with craft foam or paper mache, or even gluing on some little foam chunks. My goal for my next stream is to get some royalty-free background music playing. I acknowledge the sound of sawing foam is not the most exciting, but I don't want to play music and risk having problems because of copyrights and royalties. I know a lot of people still do that on their streams, but I think it sucks because by this point people should know that they can't. They do it anyway. Putting the chamfers on the edges earlier on can actually be really helpful, as I am coming to realize. Helps you better see the true shape earlier on. Looks like I never uncovered this corner. Don't know how I missed that, but there we go. Yeah, you can, if it's really bad and you really need to build something up, you can add more spray foam and then just wait for it to expand and dry and then recut it. Or you can use something else to fill it in, like tin foil, craft foam, little chunks of foam that you cut off of here, you can hot glue them in. There's a lot of different ways you can handle it. It depends on what kind of area you cut away accidentally and how deep it is and etc. Because also the thing about spray foam is that it's got big, these are just holes, air holes from the foam itself. So that wasn't even me cutting deep, it was just, it's spray foam and it's got air holes in it, so I might just, I mean, they're not too deep. The deepest one's maybe 1/2 inch. But I may just shoot like a little extra hot glue in there before or while I'm covering it in craft foam. That's one of the reasons for the craft foam layer too, is to kind of seal in all this junk. Let's Starting to look like something. Some big old air holes over here near the edges. But this part I'm going to build up with craft foam to get it the right shape anyway, so I may end up hacking it pretty close and mainly using this expanding foam to shape the base. So I'm going to focus on that for now. Take a look at my short sword again. Pretty flat, with a gentle curve down the side. And I want to make it a little thinner than I want it to allow for the thickness buildup of layers. Hello, viewers. Thanks for stopping by. Shaping some foam here. It's getting absolutely everywhere. I keep looking up and seeing your chat that says, what happens if you cut too deep? And I keep thinking about the Balrog. Probably just because I just watched all 3 Lord of the Rings movie commentaries this weekend while unpacking from my vacation and getting ready for school. It's always so anticlimactic when school starts. You go to all these classes and you don't really talk about anything or do anything. Or get much of an understanding about what you will be doing. Just stare at a syllabus for an hour while the teacher reads said syllabus. Trying to make a gentle curve from the thicker bottom part, thin in the middle. And then this part will be thicker also, but gotta make some of that happen with craft foam. So I may end up hacking away a lot more. Okay, looking pretty good down here. Gonna try to get this side to match. Oh yeah, my foam cutter's supposedly on. Let's see what happens. Yeah, absolutely nothing. Either this thing doesn't work, or I'm not using it right, or those batteries are dead. It's one of those, but at any rate, it's not working right now, so screw it. Uh-oh. My foam pile is encroaching on my laptop, which I'm really trying to have not happen. It's so staticky, though. Sticks to everything. It's gross. Insulation foam is just as bad. My friend Sarah Coombs and I were making costumes together once, and she had to make a giant book, spell book, to strap on her back, which is really cool, and it turned out great. But she made it out of some insulation foam, because it's just big bricks. And she only had to cut it to size, and she did it in my kitchen at the time. I think I'm eating foam. She did it at my kitchen at the time. And just after cutting out those pieces of foam, and not even shaping it like I'm doing right now, because she didn't have to, it was just little bits of blue foam stuck to all the cabinets and everything else by static cling. I had a better vacuum then, though. Okay, gotta start cutting this down. If I were being really smart, I might mark how thick I want to cut it. But what fun is that? Probably gonna cut down most of this top part. Because I don't want it to look like a giant, like, tree on the end of a pole. I want it to look like, in some universe, it could actually be a sword, so. Looking at my picture as reference all the while. So I think the center is going to be the tallest, of course. Getting a little thinner down at the edges. So maybe I'll just cut it down. Let's see. Since this foam isn't solid, this will be hard to do, but I want to get a sense of where these curvy lines are going to go. One, two, one. Oh, I think these sort of go into one piece. So that's all sort of filled in, and then this comes down like that. This is a terribly precise process, as you can see. Okay, but I have a better idea now. Gotta cut the chamfer up to this first line. There goes all the pretty lines. I'm gonna cut it all down to about the height I want the lowest part of the end of the blade to be. and then build up from there with craft foam. So it's going to be pretty thin, actually. May end up cutting all the way down to the PVC again. Starting to look like a sword now. Getting pretty close to even on the thickness. Might be worth getting the long blade out just so I can make one long, easy cut. Check on my chat here. Pretty sure it's just you, DJ. And maybe Nick, I can't tell. This is not the handle. This thing that I thought was a handle, it's a craft knife. So, never mind. I don't know if there's going to be a way for me to use this thing safely and effectively. Answer? No, there's not. So... chamfer. You can actually sand this stuff too, but I think you can imagine that makes an even greater mess. Insulation foam is a lot easier to shape and sand into precise shapes. But it comes in giant sheets, so it's hard to store, hard to get at the store, bring home from the store. but it's denser, and you can make it into some really precise, fairly precise carvings. It's great as a base for fiberglass. Because you get it, you carve it, you sand it into whatever form you want, then you cover the whole thing in clear packing tape or another product to keep the resin from eating the foam, and then you have at it with the fiberglass. I would honestly really like to use fiberglass for these swords. I think these would be a good candidate for that, but I cannot fiberglass where I currently live. No outdoor space. Okay, thickness is just about there, I think. Got a couple of spots that are uneven from one side to the other. I'm just going to check the thickness up and down, shave off some places, and then I'll be taking a quick BRB to clean all this crap up so that I can move on to the next phase, which is craft foam. I don't know how well you can see where the middle is and the evenness, but it's actually looking pretty good. Got a couple little bumps. And I do need to make the top thinner. Taper to a point. It's going to do that no matter what. Okay. Well, I think I am pleased with this form. She said, continuing to work on it. Oh, that took a long time, didn't it? Just about an hour of carving foam. A little over an hour. Tapping some of the extra foam particles out. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. So I am going to take about a 5-minute break to clean up, vacuum, get all this crap out of here, and I'll get my glue gun and my craft foam out. And I will be back. So thanks for watching, and I hope you'll be here when I come back in a few minutes. Hi, I realized I don't have my mic on. Hee. So hello, welcome back. I was just saying I'm getting out my materials here. I also changed my clothes because totally covered in foam bits. And my vacuum is not good enough to pick it up. So this is my work surface. It's a cutting mat, and it's a crappy, and by crappy I just mean cutting mat that I've decided to make crappy. Mat. It's a little thicker than a lot of my other mats. It's really nice. And I use it for things where cutting and gluing and that sort of stuff is involved so that I don't muck up other mats. My glue gun is quite nice because it is cordless. It heats up on the base and then you can just take it off the base and the base stays plugged in. Just put it back on when it needs to reheat. It's pretty great. And I've also got a big old stack of craft foam. Hello, Huffle Puffle, Badger, and Nick. Thanks for coming by for part 2 of today's shenanigans. So I'm gonna find a couple pieces of craft foam that are actually the same thickness. This is kind of a mishmash of all of my craft foam. And the color doesn't matter. Only thickness matters right now. Get some scissors. Trying to adequately get my workspace in here. Want you to be able to see what I'm doing. I don't know if that was really any better. Guess we'll find out. Okay. So I'm just going to take these little paper bits off, because who needs that? Gonna bring my trash can around here. Need more paper bits. Here's one. These staples, they staple the paper things to the craft foam, so keep that in mind if you need pristine craft foam. The part with the paper in it is not going to be pristine. There we go. I'm wearing my shirt that has cats wearing various holiday headgear, such as some sort of thing for Kwanzaa and a Santa hat and a yarmulke. So that's what I've got going on now. Okay, looks like my glue gun's pretty well heated, so one sheet obviously not long enough, so I'm just gonna join 2 sheets together with hot glue. And it's not gonna be really pristine or anything. Just trying to get some on there real quick. And then just flat together. Smoothing it out. Guess it's not that hot because it's just all balled up. Rolled right off. This is what I was talking about with the crappy cutting mat, because then if hot glue and other things get stuck to it, it doesn't matter. Wow, little bits of foam just everywhere. Once I encase this in foam, it won't shed anymore, although I think some of this is just still left over from my quickie cleanup job. I will clean it much more thoroughly with some sort of cleaning spray after the stream. I'm not doing any really pristine work where it's gonna get in the way, so I'm just kind of reinforcing the seam by squishing glue into it. I'm still getting used to working with this particular glue gun. You sort of learn what your glue gun can do, how to manipulate it to get what you want. I know that sounds weird because it's just a glue gun, but glue guns are essential for cosplay stuff, especially props and armor. So, making a seam. Noticing this glue gun isn't as easy to work with as the one my dad has. It's sort of the newer, crappier version because I can't make anything good for longer than like 5 seconds, so. Hello, people on my stream. Welcome, welcome. If you're enjoying my stream, please do follow me on Twitch, and you can also follow me on Twitter. If you scroll down below the video, you can find links to my Twitter, my Facebook page, my blog, tip jar, and a few details about the project I'm working on. So I encourage you to scroll down and read. There's also a little bit just about me in general. I'm going to try to stream 2 or 3 times a week, as long as my school schedule doesn't prohibit it, which it shouldn't for quite a while. Okay, so got that all glued together, so now I got one big piece. And I'm going to grab my patterns over here, get out the one for the big blade, which is what I used to cut out the original foam core to make this thing. I had to fold it up. And I'm actually going to use this as the pattern. To cut out the foam. So this doesn't need to be perfect because it can be trimmed. But I want to make sure, since this foam was the same size as this piece of paper, I need to cut the craft foam bigger because of the thickness of the spray foam. So I'm just sort of roughly tracing it. So you can see it's nowhere near precise, and that's okay. Gonna cut this out, and then I need to do this exact same thing. Man, scissors really just glide through craft foam. It's kind of wonderful. It's a really satisfying feeling. If you're cutting a gentle curve or a straight line, you can just glide it right through. It's kind of that feeling like when you are cutting wrapping paper and you can slide the scissors through, and you're like, yeah, bitches. At least that's how I feel about it. Always very satisfied when that happens. This is just normal. By normal, I mean the most widely available thickness of craft foam, which I think is, I don't know, I guess it's about an 1/8 of an inch thick. Oh, and if you put permanent marker on craft foam, it's really easy to mark it, but it never really, or it takes a long time to dry on the craft foam surface, so you end up with purple marks on your hands. I don't even know if you can see that. But anyway, you're going to end up with marks on your hands, so they'll wash off, but it's something you should know. In case you have, you know, a wedding later that day or something. I don't know in what other scenario that would be applicable. Alright, we got one foam sheet. Just gotta lay that right down there. Put the scraps aside. They could be useful later. And now I gotta make another big sheet. Squeeze a bead of glue. Put it together. Actually, I feel like this glue gun runs a little colder than what I'm used to. But I will learn to work with it. I also still have my trusty old tiny with a short cord glue gun that I have used to make countless things, so it's nice to have this bigger one. It takes bigger glue sticks, is cordless, but I always have the old faithful if I need it. And it's also good for taking on the go. Say to a hotel room where you're not finishing your cosplay for repairs only. Who works on cosplay in a hotel room? It's totally done by the time you get to the convention. The costume I'm wearing in my icon was really scary at the end. It's like the day before the contest and the wing harness wasn't working. It would just flop right off. The wings weren't even that heavy. Ooh! Knocked over my tiny trash can. Pardon me. I just realized I don't know how I'm going to see my marks on this black. Alright, that works. Making an indent with this clay tool. One of the downsides, I mean right now I'm using it as an upside, but one of the downsides of making things completely out of craft foam is that it can be dented pretty easily unless you put something really structurally sound on it, like I mean, if not covering it in Warbler or something, then, you know, people use mixtures of Elmer's glue or other sort of paste mixtures. Resin might work, I have no idea, I've never tried it. I've mostly used it just for small accessories like the bats on the Casper costume. Those are all craft foam. And I just built up layers of varnish to seal it. Then I painted it, then I added more varnish, so it got pretty thick and stiff, but the second or third time I wore it, I clipped a few of the wing tips off of the bats because it's just not that structurally sound, even with all those layers of stuff. But I will say it did get me through a very busy first convention, costume contest, masquerade, photos after, and then a photo shoot, and then most of the day at PAX. That's when I was getting off the bus. Clipped the wings on, these little wings on my boots when I was getting on and off the shuttle at PAX. Clipped some wings. Oh, foam everywhere. Okay, so I'm just going to check the sizing of this just to make sure that it'll cover, and it will. Foam. God. Alright. So I'm going to start at one end and lay some glue zigzags down, mostly in the middle. Oh, it's really steamy. I'm going to smooth it, because otherwise, I mean, you will see the ridges of the glue. But if you sort of mush it out, that'll help. Smooth it on. Then I'm just going to, as they say, rinse and repeat. Squeeze some glue on. Hot glue is great for craft foam, but it dries really fast. And once it's on, it's unlikely you'll get it off again without damaging the foam. Checking in on my chat here quick. Or not, because it doesn't want to refresh. Refresh. Okay. Also, if you have to put a glue stick on halfway through doing something, you need to give it time to warm it up. Because even though the gun is hot, the glue is not. This thing is just not very good. Okay. Smoothing it. Smoothing it. Smoothing it. Oop, I think I got it a little cockeyed. Try to straighten it out as I go. Move this pattern. Mushing. Try not to pull apart my two glued pieces. And then this is all going to get covered over in Warbler after I finish gluing it down. I'm going to glue it down and then I'm going to build up the fan, as it were. my reference photo, making the big one on the bottom. Not sure if on this gun the light turns off when it's hot. There's some pretty big air bubbles under here, but I'm just gonna go right over them because since I'm using Warbler, I'm not that worried about them getting punctured or anything, because the Warbler will make a hard shell. Hello, new viewers. Got my little keyboard over here. Just in case some people are listening with no sound, I want them to know that I'm thinking of them. I care. I very much appreciate anybody who comes to see my stream even for a little bit. I appreciate it even more if you come back, and I hope that you can learn something from watching me make things. I know I'm sort of tutorializing as I go, but, you know, I'm not queen of the world, at least not yet, so I will probably screw up and make mistakes, and then you can learn from those too. We will all learn together and make beautiful cosplay, and it'll just be so great. I already need a new glue stick. Gonna start with this little short one here. Welcome Hufflepuffle back, and Minion. I think that you are both new, at least to me. So thanks for coming by. Really appreciate it. Oh, this thing is such a piece of crap. It's great, but it's awful. Now I got hot glue stuck to my table. Ugh. It'll come off. But, I'd rather it not be on in the first place. That's why I have a work mat. I think it's that the base is so lightweight that every time I try to put this thing on it, it moves, and also the thing that it plugs into on the base isn't permanently attached to the base. It's separate so that I can use it as a corded glue gun, which seems to be its strength. Alright, side 1 glued. Side 2 is going to be beautiful in red, because it doesn't matter what color it is. Got a new glue stick handy. Start out some glue. Make sure it's laid out sufficiently. Try to mush the glue around before it dries. Rinse and repeat. Man, it's doing a great job of making a wonderful glue puddle, though. Come on. Come on. Try to always have a glue stick handy beyond what you think you'll use, because otherwise you'll think you have just enough glue and then you'll get to the point where your glue stick goes down into the beyond the pusher barrel, and then there's nothing to push the glue through when you squeeze the trigger. I once used a pencil, which was probably hazardous. I just stuck a pencil in because it was the right size, and then the glue gun could grip it and push it through and squeeze the glue out. But I don't recommend that. I think it's better if you just have another glue stick. Sort of blobbing this on here. Getting rid of the glue blobs so that it can make another glue blob. So I'm constantly brushing away the foam bits from carving the foam. It's just everywhere. I'm going to be finding bits of it everywhere for weeks, I imagine. Even after I do a thorough cleaning after this broadcast. Letting it heat up the new glue stick. Okay. You think this is taking a long time? First costumes I ever made were for me and all my friends to go to Anime Boston as Naruto characters, and I had never sewn before or made any props, but for some reason I decided it would be a good first endeavor to make Naruto costumes for me and all my friends for Anime Boston. So I made my costume, which was Haku, and I made Mrs. Babs, a Zabuza costume, and I made him a absolutely massive sword. Still to this day, I think the only Zabuza sword I've seen that's to the scale that it is in the show. It was just huge. If you go to my Facebook page, you can see the picture of it, of me and him together as Abuza and Haku. But I just went to I was a graphic design student, and I just went to one of the art studios when no one was in there, and I brought some big sheets of plastic that I had bought online and big sheets of insulation foam, and cut it all out, and decided, since I didn't know how else to do it, and I had found some tutorials online that gave me this idea in the first place, I just hot glued the whole thing. Yeah, Nick, you should check out my cosplay Facebook page. The link is down below the video. And yeah, you can see there's actually a pretty decent shot that my friend Ben took of me and Mike standing back to back at Anime Boston, and he's got his giant sword. But I hot glued the plastic on both sides of that whole thing and the edges. And then it was the day of the con, and we went outside. It was a beautiful day, fortunately, and there was just like a little patch of grass outside of my dorm, and we took the silver spray paint and just gave it like the crappiest coat of paint ever. But even with that sort of half-assed execution, it still had a really big impact because of how big it was, and it was just to scale. It was just huge. It wasn't one of those little dinky Zabuza swords that a lot of people carry around, so people loved it. And then I had my friend Jamie went as Anko, and she did her own hair. I made her the little like net bodysuit and a trench coat, which, you know, I was still learning to sew and do all these things, so there was no lining of the trench coat, but it still looked good. And she really looked a lot like Anko. So, and my friend Fazio was, oh god, I can't remember that guy's name from Naruto. Shino? He has like a big jacket that covers his up to his nose. That was the one I struggled the most with, because I was still just learning and I didn't know how to make a collar stand up. I tried. I think I ended up gluing wire into it the day of because I just couldn't get it to stand up around his face high enough. It was great fun. That was the first convention that we all went to together. And I was so glad that my friends were game to do costumes. It was so great. It's a really good memory, in case you can't tell. We walked from my dorm to the Heinz Convention Center with our costumes on, and we stopped at the Au Bon Pain on my campus and got many stares, and we were positively delighted. So we were just glad to be doing something that we thought was cool. And I still think it's cool. But yeah, you can find those pictures and some of my other old costumes and old costumes I made for my friends on my Triene Cosplay Facebook page. And while you're there, if you like the page, that would be great too, and then you can get updates on what I'm up to and that sort of thing. I haven't been able to make costumes for my friends in quite some time, which is kind of a bummer. Some of them made their own costumes for later conventions, though, which is great. Okay, so, got a big drip of glue where it ought not be. Just gotta cut that out of there. Alright, so, got some foam glued to both sides, but the edges are still open and crappy, as you can see. And I want to make a nice edge. Hopefully I glued this in such a way where I can do that. If I didn't, I can make up for it with the Worbla, but I'm going to get as close as I can with the craft foam. So I'm just going to start, I'm going to glue the foam down to the edges of the sword and to itself, or rather to each other, the black to the red, wherever I can get them to meet, and then I'll trim the extra. Oh, also later this year I'm going to be revisiting the Haku costume. I still have it. And I was kind of bummed that I never got good pictures of it, or most of my other costumes for that matter, so I'm sort of slowly going through. I'm gonna try to do like 1 or 2 a year depending on how I'm feeling. Old costumes, fix them up, anything that needs fixing, and then get some nice photos taken of them, and then I can retire them, sell them to somebody else, or just get rid of them, because there is a critical mass for costume storage. Unfortunately, I can't keep them all. But so I bought a wig for Haku. When I wore her originally, I used my own hair because it was at the time, it was the right color and length. And I managed to coax it into looking like Haku. So you can see I'm just kind of making a seam. Trying to center it, because it'll also be the guide for the Warbler seam. So I'm trying to make sure that the pieces come together as close to in the middle thickness wise as I can, and that it's as straight as I can make it. There's going to be some extra foam in places and not enough foam in some other places, but I'll just trim it down. The more you work with hot glue, the more you learn to manipulate it, and even with your fingers, touch it in such a way where you don't really burn yourself. I mean, like, it hurts for about a second. But then you can sort of mush it into things with your finger and kind of get it to do what you want. Also, I've been dying to cosplay with Babs, who Nick knows. I don't know if anybody else in here knows her. But, she lives far, far away from me right now, so... But I hope to be able to cosplay with her in the future. Turns out she's coming to PAX this year, but I didn't know that at the time. And by at the time, I mean far enough ahead to have made a costume for her. Which is too bad. If I had known long ago that she would be coming, I would have coaxed her into doing cosplay with me. But someday, we will. Craft foam sticks really well to itself with hot glue, so I'm trying to make sure to really get enough glue to seal the edges to themselves. Ah, it's hot! Did you know that hot glue is hot? There's one takeaway that I can give you for the day. It's that hot glue is hot. These are the pearls of wisdom you'll get from watching my channel. I hope to offer you some better pearls of wisdom than that. X-Acto knife. We'll trim the foam very nicely, but the foam is still hot, so it's not going to trim. That's great. Sort of the opposite of Warbler. Warbler gets easier to trim when it's hot. craft foam gets harder to trim when it's hot. I feel like the people who live above me have been vacuuming for like a full hour on and off. I hear this sort of faint, high-pitched sound every so often from up there. And I've always assumed it was a vacuum, but given how much I've been hearing it run this evening, but maybe they're working with foam too. Well, she's told me before that she would cosplay, Babs. She told me before that she would cosplay, if I make her, you know, a costume. Once she has a little, she has a little extra money she feels like throwing at it. Because I can't pay for and make it, which she knows. She would, of course, be paying for it. But, I don't know. We haven't really talked about it in depth. I sort of, on a completely, like, unrelated to anything note, totally want to dress her up as Glinda. And then I would be Elphaba from Wicked, which is, like, not related to anything like game or anime. We've talked about dressing her as an adorable Pokemon, and then either I would be a Pokemon too, or a Pokemon trainer, which would be great, because then she could be like a super cute Pokemon. Because she's just so cute! She can pull off the cuteness very well. But I don't know, we haven't really talked about... Yeah, and we both love heroes, of course, so it would be great to do some heroes costumes. I'm not sure who she would want to be from Heroes. I haven't played with her in a while, so I don't really know who she's been playing lately. But I think she likes Vala and stuff, so we could do like a Vala Sylvanas duo or Nova or something like that. That would be a little more fancy. Making weird faces smushing this into place. So, it's looking pretty good. It looks a little wavy probably to you because it needs to be trimmed. And also I'm an imperfect human and can't make things perfectly straight, but I'm trying to make it as straight as possible, running down the length. Try to compensate for it a little bit. Gonna trim some of this off. This is just an X-Acto knife, in case you can't tell. I'm kind of sawing it, which is making a jagged line, but it's getting covered in Warbler, so it's not very important. If you weren't covering this in Warbler, you would have to take much better care than what I'm doing right now, but that would be true on many levels. Thanks for stopping by, Huffily Puffily. I hope that you'll come back another time. Don't forget to follow me so you can see when I'm back on stream. it is on the later side. For East Coast, anyway. It is 10:12, according to my computer clock. Alright, so here the twain shall not meet. I won't be streaming forever tonight just because, even though I don't have to get up early tomorrow, I know a lot of other people do. And maybe I'll take the time to try to do my first highlights, stream highlights, and then export them to YouTube. And then make a blog post about it, because I haven't made an official post on my blog in a while. Hot glue strings. They're out in full force right now. God. Okay. Definitely did a wonky job of gluing the stuff down initially. Ah, look at that nice steam, smoke. Smoky steam. From a hot, hot glue gun. That's what you want. It means it's not just gonna lay there like a lump. It's gonna smush and be gluey. Little extraneous piece of foam in here. Don't know where it came from. Hey, Doc. Final Fantasy fan... Oh, at the Final Fantasy Fan Festival. I thought you were saying they want to cosplay as the Final Fantasy Fan Festival, and I thought maybe that was a Final Fantasy game I had never heard of. But then I read it again. I can read. Do they know what they want to cosplay? And also, when is that and where is that? I'm guessing this is another wonderful West Coast thing that I'll never be able to go to because I have no money. Las Vegas. Man, that would be so cool. Are you going to that for sure, or just people you know? I've never heard of it. Not to say I've been looking for a convention of Final Fantasy fandom or anything, but just haven't heard of it in passing. And also, will you be cosplaying, Doc, if you're going? Cool. Wait, are they the same people who want to cosplay? I didn't know they were the cosplaying type. Not that I like know them, but what do I know? Cosplay's also grown more popular and a bit more mainstream these days, so it's really not that hard to believe that anyone would want to cosplay. Cool. Do you know what you're cosplaying yet? Oh wait, didn't you have some sort of mage costume from a long time ago? Final Fantasy mage, I mean, not a WoW mage, obviously. I don't see you cosplaying a WoW mage. Shaman, if anything. Crafter. That's cool. Keep me posted on what you're making. I'd really like to see it. If you need to commission a prop or something, let me know early so I can work on it. But if not, I will just check out what you're doing. Love to see what you'll make. Alright, there's a little dip in the blade here. That I didn't cut out in any way, so I'm just gonna cut a little chunk of foam. So I can glue it. Lots of glue. Just blowing on it to cool down the stuff that's oozing out so that hopefully it sets a little bit faster. Since hot glue is basically just plastic that you melt and then wait to cool down, as long as it's warm, it's still not solid and can be manipulated, which can be both good and bad. Yeah, I'm definitely going to stop the stream tonight no later than 11, but maybe before that, just because I know people are generally not watching streams all that late. And then I can do the stuff I said before that I wanted to do. I don't have class till 2 tomorrow. Woohoo! Got one class. I tried really hard to not have class on Thursdays, but it was impossible. So I have a single class on Thursdays. The best is when all of your classes get chunked together in one day, as few days as possible, with as few gaps as possible. Maybe a strategic gap to eat. And then trying to get a full day off. I think both Thursdays and Fridays I have a single class, and on Thursdays it's at 2, and on Fridays it's at 9 a.m. But at least then when I'm out, I have the entire day ahead of me. And 9 a.m. is probably a lot earlier than I would have otherwise gotten up if I didn't have to get up for class. So it's 10 a.m. for that matter, which is when I would be getting out of that class. Semester just started yesterday, so got school on the brain. And schedules. Like today when I went, I was like 10 or 15 minutes late for class because I went to the wrong room because I didn't know they changed the room. College is great. There's a class that I've already been to one of the classes, and it's already changed the room between yesterday and today. So next week it'll be in a totally different room. I don't understand why this happens. Alright, this side's a lot easier. You can see the form of the sword underneath. But the side is a lot easier because the foam... I think I glued the foam too far on this way. So it's really overhanging a lot here, and there was almost little to no overhang on this other side. Lots of little bits. I have a tiny trash can that hangs on my table. It's really useful. Cutting away some extra foam. I'll do a neater job of that at the very end. Got Good Morning Baltimore stuck in my head. Any of you musical nerds out there? Since there's 2 of you in the chat, I'm guessing there aren't any. Oh, looks like maybe somebody new has joined. Whoa! Don't mind me. Just throwing crap around. squeeze this all together before it sets. Getting pretty close to the end here. So I think once I finish gluing this seam together, I'll probably stop the stream, and then the next stream, will probably be Friday evening, and I will detail the stripey bits on this side. Whoa. There it is! The sort of like whooshy lines that go down are going to be built up in different levels and integrated into this curve. So I'll work on that next time, show you how I do that, because that's that'll be a general way to build any kind of details underneath Warbler. Because once the Warbler is hot, you can smush it into pretty much any detail you want down to a pretty fine level. So if there was some sort of like weird embossed design, not that any anime or game sword has ever had any sort of weird design on it, that would never happen in real life. You can just cut it out of craft foam and glue it on, and then when you cover it in Warbler, you just mush it in. It's pretty great. That's how I made the Fiona crowns. Cut that detailed, intricate, swirly design out of craft foam. Sandwiched 2 pieces of Warbler around it, got them nice and warm, and mushed it into all the crevices and details. And then while it was still warm, but not hot, so it had stiffened up a little bit, I cut out the middles with an X-Acto knife. Then I heated it up again and mushed the little bits in to make it smooth. Rinse and repeat till they look good. Painted them up. Had me some Fiona crowns. I still have mine, but they kept the other 2. Or rather, I donated the other 2 to the theater. Since I had paid for the crowns materials, technically, they let me decide what to do with them, and I kept mine as a souvenir of my time as Fiona. Which I wish I could still do. It's so much fun. There's a picture on my Facebook page also of me getting made up into an ogre during that production. But funny enough, I'm not wearing the crown because they put a veil on me during that change. Oh, got hunchy shoulders. Trying to have better posture. It's really hard though, especially when you work on costumes, hunched over tables and at computers, which I also do. Playing games on computers, which I also do. Do a lot of things that tend to make one hunch. Alright, still got this bottom part to do. You can see all that foam exposed. Getting lots of glue in. Making sure the glue's on the foam so it sticks to each other. Smearing it around. forgot to do this side. Ah. Hot. Seem to always run out of pushing power at the worst time. Surprise. Hot glue. Touching hot glue when you're not aware you're going to be touching hot glue is a terrible surprise. If you know you're about to do it, it's not so bad. You can kind of brace for impact like that. And then just sort of rub it around between your fingers till it cools down. Sure, I take off little bits of skin every time I do that, but sometimes it's just easy thing to do, especially when making seams. Alright, last little bit here. Cool. I think I've got it totally sealed up as much as possible. Around the edges. Another reason I'm going to have to stop streaming in a minute is because I am starving. And it is 10:30. And I've just realized this, that I haven't eaten since I got home at 4. So, thanks, buddy. Doc, I miss you. Drop me a line. We can catch up a little bit. I hope you're doing well. And definitely keep me apprised of your cosplay project and your friends' cosplay projects. I want to see how that turns out. So, this is what it looks like anyway, with the foam. It needs to be trimmed, obviously. There's some, you know, over here where only part of the foam covered, and it needs to get trimmed down as close to the shape of the sword as possible. And then next time, gonna pattern out the curves. I may actually pattern them before the stream so that the patterns are ready to go. Then gonna glue the foam on both sides, and then we will warbler, because I actually think I have enough to at least get started warbling the sword. Maybe not quite enough. This is the sum total of all my warbler. I guess I could do one side. Oh, that's sad. So maybe I'll do one side and see how it turns out, and then I have to wait. I had to order more warbler, and it ain't cheap. So tell your friends about my stream. And if they like it, I hope they subscribe and they come back and that they learn things. And maybe if they really like it, put something in the tip jar. And then I can use it to buy Warbler and other things and better streaming equipment. I actually don't know how much it costs for a full sheet. Maybe like $70 for a full sheet. I only had a quarter or a third of a sheet. I split with some friends at work. We ordered a sheet and split the cost 3 ways, and then we cut it into about thirds. And I think that cost me 15 or $20, maybe $25. So it might be $75 for a full sheet. And you can usually order half sheets and stuff too. So I might order 2 half sheets just because it's easier to work with. And I don't see myself making anything so big that I need a full sheet anytime soon. But anyway, that's about how much it costs. I'm not sure if that includes shipping. My favorite wig place, Arta Wigs, has begun selling Warbler. So I'm going to see how much theirs is. Theirs is black also, which is interesting. But yeah, thanks for coming by the stream, anyone who's still here. And I hope that you'll join me Friday night. Should be at 8 o'clock as well for the next steps of this sword. And when I run out of Warbler, I'll just go back to working on the other sword because I'm actually going to try to pick up some supplies for it tomorrow. So there'll be a little bit of this and that working on different swords. Gonna hopefully find a finial for the sword, put that on, start figuring out the next steps, filling in the gaps and the texture from the Warbler, and then making it look more like an actual sword instead of just this. This is what the Warbler sword looks like. It looks like a lump of sand paper on a stick, but it's pretty good. So yeah, that'll be next time. And I hope to see you then. Please subscribe/favorite my channel if you haven't. Then you can see, or follow me on Twitter because I tweet before a couple times about what I'm going to be doing, and also on my blog, anything with that I put the hashtag in shows up on the sidebar of my blog. So those are all ways that you can follow me. And Facebook too. I try to keep my Facebook page updated as well. So see you next time, and look for some videos on YouTube, hopefully of the cut of this stream. Bye.